Welcome to day 4 of 120 days of Nobel's literary pilgrimage, 1904 this year, a very special year in the Nobel Literature Prize's history. But at the end of this ultimate book lovers challenge, you will and I will have read every single one of 120 winners of the Nobel Prize for Literature. Not all of them, of course, just little bits, but at least you will be able to say to your friends, I have read a little bit of every single one of these 120 winners of the Nobel Prize for Literature. Who do you know now who can say that? Now, we began in 1901 with Sully Prudhomme, and we're going to go all the way to 2023 and finish just before the announcement of the 2024 winner in October in Stockholm. It's going to take us 120 days, and I'm going to be releasing a new video for each year, each winner, every single day over those 120 days. Quite a marathon. Do support me along the way by giving the video a like and sharing it in your network. In following the story of the Nobel Prize for Literature, we're seeing how many different ways the criteria of idealism and benefit to mankind have been interpreted by the Academy, and we're learning a lot about the cultural history of the world since the late 19th century. In the first 3 videos, we've seen how cultural nationalism, in its both heroic and shadow forms, has played quite a significant role in these early set of Nobel Prizes for Literature. We've seen how on the cusp of the birth of modernism, of the shock of the new, change in sensibility of art in the 20th century, the early Nobel Prize winners were traditionalists. We've also seen the prize shared between France, Germany, and the then as yet non-existent state of Norway. The 1904 winner is an even more curious story, or should I say the 1904 winners, because for the first of 4 times in the history of the Nobel Prize for Literature, there were 2 winners, two joint winners announced in 1904. In this video, I'm going to focus on the second French winner, Frederic Mistral. But Mistral, although Mistral counts as a Frenchman in terms of his nationality, in the list of Nobel laureates, one of 16, I think, he himself loudly proclaimed he was not French, but he was Provençal. He would have liked to separate from France, just as, I guess, Bjørnson wanted to separate, at least for most of his life, Norway from Sweden. He even wrote in a language different to French, arguably older and more ancient than modern French. He wrote in an old language of Occitan. This language was spoken in Provence and even down into Catalonia, and Mistral dedicated his literary output and scholarship to creating this or reviving this language as a national language. He was to become the great national poet of Provence or Occitania. He was the son of a farmer, and after study in Avignon began to write poems in Provençal language. With some academic colleagues, he devoted himself to the rehabilitation of Provençal life and language, and in 1854 they founded the Félibrige, an association for the revival of the Provençal language and customs, which extended later to include the whole area in southern Europe, which is known as Occitania, even for a while down into Catalonia. He wrote in his memoir, which you can read online, and there's a link in the video description below, how strange it seems to look back on that scene like some fairy tale. And yet it was from that day of light-hearted festivity, of youthful ideals and enthusiasms that sprang the gigantic task completed in the treasury of the Félibre's dictionary of the Provençal tongue, including every variety of derivation and idiom, a work to which I devoted 20 years of my life. This work was a dictionary of modern Occitan entitled Le Trésor du Félibrige and published in 1878. He was such an ardent believer in this new separate national state of Félibrige that he even named his wife, Madame Mistral, the first queen of Félibrige. It's a reminder, I guess, that in most countries, not just in Europe, in many countries around the world, in the late 19th and early 20th century, there was little language standardization. This kind of thing was happening in many, many countries. There were many regional dialects, many sub-national languages, many languages spreading across what appeared to be national or imperial boundaries, and even things like time zones and other sorts of things varied significantly around most of the world. So Mistral was part of this same movement of, if you like, regional nationalism, similar to the 1903 winner Bjornson. Mistral was also reviving an old tradition using this language, the language of the troubadours, the great poets of courtly love and song from the sort of late Middle Ages, the high Middle Ages. The troubadour school or tradition began in the late 11th century in Occitania, the homeland of Frederic Mistral. Mistral wrote 4 long narrative poems evoking this tradition. Mireille, a Provençal poem, Calendar, Nerto, and The Song of the Rhône. He also wrote some other prose works, including, notably, a memoir. Let us read just a little from Calendar, and I'll also show you the Provençal text of the poem. After I've sang the drama of a young maiden in love, I'll sing, if God wants, a son of Cassis, a simple fisher of anchovies who with his skill and enthusiasm won the jewels, the empire and the light of mere love. Soul of my country, you lightning obvious in both its language and legend, you that while Picard, German and Burgundian barons besieged Toulouse and Beaucaire, inflamed from all parts of the country, men of Marseille and sons of Avignon, you that save our hope because of the greatness of remembers, you that in youth, both warmer and more beautiful, in spite of death and grave diggers, make revive once again our father's blood, you inspiring, loving poets, then making blow like a great wind the voice of Mirabeau, despite secular floods and tempests and fears, mixing peoples, erasing boundaries, Mother Earth, Nature, always nourishes its pups with the same milk. Its tough breast will always provide mere oil to olive trees. Ever reviving soul, joyful and proud and lively soul, whinnying in the sound of the Rhône and the Rhône's wind, soul of melodious forests and sunny creeks, pious soul of fatherland, I call you, incarnate, you in my Provençal verses. Mistral's revival of the troubadour tradition and indeed of this language has a reverberation even today, because the language of Catalonia, Catalan, and Occitan are very closely related languages. And today in Spain, there is still some of that same sentiment that led this not French but Provençal poet to declare his wife the new queen of the troubadours. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and you can follow the entire playlist whenever you start the 120 Days of Nobel's Literary Pilgrimage by watching this playlist right here.